Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to start off this week of Gotta Go Slow with a band called YOB. We're looking at a track called Burning the Altar that is 12 and a half minutes, which makes me think that this is going to be a 4-minute song stretched out to a 12-minute length. Let's dive into it though and see what YOB is bringing to the table. Ton of compression, very closely packed. I can't tell if it's tremolo picking or not, but we certainly have plenty of attacks that are hidden beneath some fuzz. Drums just really keeping the beat here. Really hanging on to the feedback here. We're like 2 minutes into this song and we're really hanging on to feedback, hanging on to atmosphere, and that's and so we're about an 88 tempo right here. Certainly a bit on the slower side. But it'll take us three and a half minutes to get into our first verse. Definitely taking it slow even structurally. Not the kind of vocals I was expecting given our screech at the beginning. That's more what I was expecting. of this kind of gives me the vibe of like a very powerful secret. It's kind of haunting, kind of eerie, but it's that sort of prophesaic kind of power. I've also noticed this pattern in a couple of these sections with these jumps. We have a pedal tone and then we jump up to a note and come back down. Usually a pretty large gap there. It's interesting too, though, almost the lack of attacks we're getting from our guitars, I think presumably because of all the fuzz above it. Makes sense. We're in a Phrygian adjacent mode. This is an interesting section too, because so often I feel like the beginning of the phrase is actually on beat 2 of a bar. That wow, that's actually our beat 1, with the rhythmic stomping starting on beat 2. It threw me off the first time. Yeah, the attack on this section is so different from our previous one, which had really staccato hits on it, and this is more like a legato feel, a very aggressive legato feel, but legato. Bringing in harmony for the first time. second time bringing in harmony. It's interesting too, other than a single moment in the middle of the track, it's always had this forward stomping progression. Never really taking a moment to step back and do anything else. Interesting decision to bring wailing here at the ends. All right. All right. Interesting track. Yeah, like I had mentioned, a lot of the song is rather one note. It's this constant, unstoppable stomping, this march towards a goal, which I think is going to be adjacent to the title, Burning the Altar. I don't know quite where we're going with that yet, but there's definitely a goal at mind, and the music um, subscribes to the idea that it is a single track focus, that nothing is going to stop it. There is a small moment in the middle where we sort of have this call and response between heaviness and clean guitar, I think it was. But other than that one moment, which was like a whole 30 seconds, is barely anything in the larger scheme of the track. It is constantly driving forward. Nothing stops it. And it creates a very interesting story to me because we combine that with the atmosphere of the song, which to me is kind of eerie and creeping and powerful and slightly otherworldly. There's a supernatural kind of thing going on here, at least as far as I hear it. And to me, it tells the story of this unnatural drive to succeed in this single task, and that's just very cool. The music does a fantastic job of telling that. Um, it takes a long time to tell it, but I think that I don't think that the ceaselessness of the of this person is it could be told in any other way. Having a 12-minute song of primarily one single musical theme certainly showcases dedication in a way that a shorter song could not. So yeah, definitely earned its runtime as far as a thematic artistic angle goes. I want to talk about the guitar attacks because they intrigue me. I don't I don't know what's going on here. So a few times before I've illustrated tonguing differences, which is something we utilize obviously just for aerophones. We would not talk about tonguing techniques for percussion instruments or string instruments or anything like that. But it changes the way that an attack sounds. We can change the softness or harshness of an attack. We tend to use two to showcase harsh tonguing, like two, 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 two. There's very hard stops there. And we also have do or lu for soft tonguing. Lu, 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 lu. There's a lot softer there. With metal, I tend to expect harsher strumming. Primarily because you want to get that aggression out. And they decided to go in a different direction here. That's not to say that this track doesn't sound harsh or that there isn't an aggressive element in the music, but well, let me start with how I would sing this phonetically, what kind of tonguing I would use if I were to emulate the guitar sounds with my mouth. And this is really interesting because I did take a little bit of time during the song to figure out what it would be. And it's a buzzy V. That's kind of where my brain was going, which is so drastically different from my classical oriented aerophone tonguing techniques. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously. I've never thought of this before, so I can't even say it's obvious to me. I don't think I would ever use a V sound to play a trumpet. I don't even know if I could. So this is primarily I'd say like a vocalization technique to emulate an instrument's sound with the mouth. But the thing is that it is an aggressive tone. It has a lot of buzz and grit to it. And like a lot of that's going to come from the overdrive and the compression and everything that goes into the guitar tone. But the attacks themselves are legato style. There is not a lot of harsh hits. If I'm using a V sound, they'll just kind of lean into each other. They roll into each other. It's a very soft stop and start between note changes. Um, so it really makes me start listening to some of the faster guitar lines, like we saw closer to the end of the track when we picked up a little bit of, I don't want to say speed because our tempo didn't change, but we picked up a bit of momentum in our music. We shifted from primarily holding out notes to kind of pushing towards some more eighth note usage in the guitars. And you would think that playing more, playing faster would require a heavier hand. It would require faster picking, which might have a bit more articulation to it. But it didn't, and I'm not sure where this comes from. I don't know if there's a picking style. I know that you can use finger picking for a softer attack than using a pick. But I don't know if there is a way to use a pick and achieve harder and softer styles other than just not picking as hard. Um, Presumably also picking with as little of the pick as you can. I assume that the more you use, the harsher the attack will be. I don't know. That's an assumption I have, but I can't say I have data to back that up. Um, but I don't know that you could get that softness that they're getting here. My guess here is that the distortion and compression and all the fuzz over top is hiding the attacks. Either that or maybe it's a production thing, maybe it's a pedal thing where the attack is actually cut off. and it's using the, I don't know, a reverberation of the previous note to cover over where the attack would be, so it feels more seamless. Um, I don't know. It's just, like I said, it's a very weird thing to me because I can't figure out how it would be done, but I certainly know what I heard. I heard aggressive legato playing, which is just, it makes no sense to me. But when I listen to the music, especially in those faster parts, it feels very flowy to me. It's very light and elegant. If we were to take the distortion off, and or even just put it into another instrument, I would probably tell somebody to use legato tongue during these sections because that's the type of attacks that I'm hearing out of it. There's just a really smooth transition between notes, and it creates a very specific sound. I had mentioned that there's an aggression, there's a single minded focus that the song tells me about, right? And there's this constant heavy stomping coming out of our snare hits on 1 and 3 for pretty much the entire track. It's just this heavy, constant, almost like stomping, a forward direction, moving forward, single minded, single focused, always going towards this one goal, never looking back, never taking steps back, never reevaluating, right? I would expect heavy handed performance out of the guitars as well, and I don't get that, and I'm really trying to reconcile all of that. To me, it's a very elegant, an elegant anger, if that makes any sense. It's just, it's a bizarre sound. I don't know if I want to stay on this topic too much longer, because I don't know that I have anything to say about it other than just to point a finger and say, hey, look, this is what they're doing. It's interesting. But yeah, it's an elegant anger. And then when you pair that with the Phrygian mode, which gets used throughout this track in several places, which to me typically illustrates a sort of Middle Eastern kind of vibe. It all comes together into, I don't know, I see this humanoid dude just marching through a desert, one step after the other. For some reason, I see like chains coming off of the wrists, like they were shackled at one point but broke the shackles and are just like marching towards presumably an altar to burn. um, and like they don't get dehydrated, they don't get hungry, there's no stopping for anything. It's just constant moving forward. Um, I don't know. It's a bizarre song. Um, so what's up with the vocals though? I was taken aback the first time we heard vocals. It was quite a bit into the track, like 2 minutes in, and we get this shrill screech, and I mean that it was a screech. Um, and I was like, oh, geez, this is gonna be the lyrics for the track. Not that I have anything against those vocal styles, just not my cup of tea. It's impressive that they can do it. Uh, I have a lot of admiration for the style and the production of it, but it's just not a sound I'm typically fond of. And to, as I was thinking, 12 and a half minutes of this. All right, Bryan, strap in, buckle down, and prepare for this. And then we got some gritty cleans. That was really neat, and they harmonized with the guitar. I was really digging that. We shifted over into some growls. I don't think we ever went back to that shriek, which was pleasant for me, but it also showcases a lot of variety from our vocalist, and I think that's always a positive thing. Even if I'm not always fond of all the different styles they can do, just having that repertoire is always nice, and it shows in situations like this where you can utilize a different sound for specific sections to really hone in what you want that specific section to be doing. Maybe the shrill sound was not the same character, so to speak, that the rest of the track was speaking from. Or maybe it was a very traumatic incident that created the motivations for the character going forward. There's lots of different ways that it can be used in a narrative way. So yeah, having the repertoire is always nice. The call and response part there in the middle, I've been trying to figure out what this means. Like I said, the whole song, every single moment is step after step pushing forward, and then we get this moment where we get this really nice clean guitar line for a bar, and then we get a heavy metal riff for a bar, and then the nice chill guitar tone. And we do this back and forth a couple of times, and then that's it. We never return to this, but it almost seems like a moment of hesitation, where there's this very clear focus in the rest of the track. Here is maybe someone trying to talk them down, talk them out of it. Maybe they're trying to talk themselves out of it. Maybe there's a moment of mental clarity that's not driven by anger. I don't know. I'm really interested in checking out the lyrics here, because I love little moments like that. It's not it's not a verse chorus thing where I'm like, oh, okay, they're just doing it because choruses slow down kind of thing, or choruses chill out. No, it literally is an isolated moment outside of any typical structures, um, for just a few seconds, 30, 40 seconds tops, I think, um, to do this. And to me, that means that it has thematic purpose. And I'm always curious why people would decide to implement this. I know what I kind of got out of it. I'm curious maybe if they have a bit more artistic intent to put on display, though. And that may. Oh, no, 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 no. The end. So I think this is going to be a difficult week for me, especially if we're going to continue to look at some of these longer tracks. Repetition is not a favorable style of mine. I tend to like songs to progress and move, and the song not really doing much for the opening 3 minutes. Just two ideas, I think, and the first idea was like 40 seconds of it. So we spent a long time in that second section. Um, I was a little concerned that the whole song would be like that, especially when I started to pick up on a verse chorus idea after our intro. I was like, oh, this is just a 3 to 4 minute rock track, except we've cut the tempo in half, so we've stretched it out to 12 minutes. We're going to stay in some of these sections way longer than we need to, but the idea is we're still looking at a 3 section song: verse, chorus, and bridge. And I don't think that is wholly inaccurate. We did have some interesting things going on in the middle, but like I said, we did have a verse, chorus thing going on. And we did end the track with a return to a chorus. Not directly in the track like that. There was some neat. You know what? That's what I'm getting to. All right, let's just dive into that. Variation. There was some in here. Pleasantly surprised as well. Like I mentioned, I kind of figured this was going to be a bit more monotonous, going into it, and it was nice at the end to have a bit of this. We had some change ups in our guitar riffs. We had the incorporation of a melodic line in our guitars at like minute 10 or 11, where we still had those sludgy guitar riffs going on underneath, but we then got 2 layers of additional guitars on top, which we hadn't seen anything like that all song, if I recall correctly. And we introduced a melodic line and then a harmony on top of it. Very neat. Very neat. And like I said, a nice change of pace for me. And then we brought about a variation on the chorus, I think it was, with some vocal harmonies. So nice to have little changes for me to kind of lean into and say, oh, okay, this isn't the same thing we've heard for the past 12 minutes. So yeah, I'm definitely hoping that if we do listen to more of these longer tracks throughout the week, that they do incorporate some variation to them, because that's going to be a little bit of a saving grace just for me and my own tastes. So let's dive into some lyrics here. Burning the altar, not altar, from YOB. All right. There are not a lot of lyrics. How are there only 20 lines? Seems. Oh, this is only a 5-track album. I mean, if they're all 10 minutes long, we're still looking at a 50-minute album. Just always surprised. When I think of 5-track albums, I think of EPs. All right. Burning eyes brim with tears, heavy heart clenched like a fist, grasping hope with hands in flames, burning ashes, burning to the core. Heavy heart clenched like a fist. Oh man, that's. I don't know if that's me being a little under the weather, but that line makes me laugh for some reason. I'm trying to think of a clenched heart. Anyways, we definitely have somebody who is desperate and in pain. Physical pain from the burning eyes, emotional pain from the heavy heart, and they're even a bit, I think it said desperate, they're grasping for hope with hands in flames. So, presumably, even if they could grab the hope, they would incinerate it as soon as they got it, so it would be pointless. It says the burning ashes burning to the core. Yeah, so we have somebody who is in need of help physically, emotionally, but they cannot get it. They can't even reach out for it. Wretched fools suffer fate in worlds that they made, sands slipping through fingers, wisdom in decay. I think that one's a bit more straightforward than our metaphorical opener. Burning the altar, ashes billow across the sky, burning the altar, burning the altar. All right. It seems like the task was completed much earlier in the song than I expected. The ignorant rule the weak with iron law and wrathful deeds, eyes within eyes, all seeing a mass delusion, trumpets to the fall. Hollow psalms, the drums of war beating the stretched skin of the fallen, redirect the vision within now while the world ends. So, yeah, we have it might not even be that our protagonist is the one in so much pain at the beginning. I think we can still read it from that angle, but I also see that could be a personification of the world around them. There's drums of war everywhere. And the drums, of course, he says, are beating the stretched skin of the fallen. So, in the past, drums have been typically made of animal skin. You stretch the skin over a base, and you use that to you hit that instead of using a drum head, which I feel like I've asked this before, and I probably have been told the answer and forgot, which is not uncommon. I should probably keep a journal of information I've learned on the channel so that I can not forget it over time, but I don't know what drum heads are made of these days. Um, Anyways, though, it says beating the stretched skin of the fallen, so the drums of war are made from the skin of humans, those who have fallen, which I like how it doesn't say which side. It doesn't say beating the stretched skin of our opponents. It says that of fallen, and war tends to have casualties on both sides. So I like how there's an indifference to it. Skin is skin, right? Uh, it's not about, what is that word? It's not about humiliating those you have defeated. It's really just about using somebody as much as they can, right? It doesn't matter uh, what material gets utilized for these drums or where it comes from, just so long that we continue to utilize these people. Um, and of course, the war is based off of our rulers being ignorant, having wrathful deeds, right? They have eyes within their eyes. They're all seeing, but it's all a mass delusion. So it could be the world that is in flame, grasping for hope, having a heavy heart, um, and watching fools suffer the fate that they have made. As sand slips through fingers, wisdom and decay. The sand slipping through fingers could also be an allusion to time, like an hourglass. Um, so yeah, basically, the world is is a hateful place where those who rule enact cruel laws on those that are ruled, and also though the rulers have the right to declare war, and it's always the poor who go to war. And because of that, we just have a cyclical mess. The drums of war, actually, that is good. There's a cycle here. You can't make the drums of war without the skins of the fallen. And because you have skins of the fallen, especially if they're your own, you must continue to beat the drums of war because you have now lost that you need to get revenge on. Yeah, so I think that's what this is all about. I'm not quite sure what the altar is, who the altar is to, that it should be burned. Um, but we have somebody who feels like burning the altar might help change the way things are. So yeah, I suppose our ceaselessly moving forward creature that I was envisioning might not have been a person at all, but a personification of a concept. It could be war, constantly moving forward with little stop, with little regret, with little moment to reconsider if war is actually where we should be going. All right, interesting track from YOB, Burning the Altar. That's where you guys come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you thought of this. Anything that stands out to you, anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on, let me know. Above the comment section is the description box, and there's a link for Linktree, which takes you to this menu right here. It has links for everything related to the channel. You can pick up merch, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, support me through Patreon, and just a bunch of other stuff. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. We have a special selection coming out today. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. As usual, we will continue on with Gotta Go Slow Week, looking at songs whose tempos are less than 100 BPM, which this one just barely made it, sitting at 88. We'll also have a special selection tomorrow as well, as usual. Alright, until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.